Okay, it's going hybrid with Deepak Subaro. Deepak, thanks so much for doing these as always. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it too.
So we've been through the 80s and 90s and the initial decade in this century and the current decade, talking about the way that organizations are structured. And that has brought us to the lifeblood of any organization, which is its data.
Absolutely, right? So data is the new gold, as they say. And we've talked about organization models, but I guess the common theme across all our discussions was data. So it's so important, not only because of the impact it has on choosing the technologies involved, but also pretty much to get the insight of anything that you're doing in the business, you need the data. And we all know the types of data, isn't it? So you can have structured data, unstructured data, even some call it semi-structured data. But
so
more and more,
we'll leave semi-structured data alone for the time being. We'll definitely leave unstructured data alone. We will get to that. Let's talk about structured data this time out.
Yeah. Why? Because I guess the reason we want to talk about structured data first is that's what most of the companies have. What you have is you've taken the data, irrespective of what it was, but you've made it structured over the 80s and 90s and the 2000s that we have talked about. So you've made all that effort to keep it structured. And now what do we do with it, right? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about.
Indeed. And, what I'm hearing from folks is that obviously some of the ways that I've structured my data has been helpful in terms of intelligent automation. But some of the ways that I've structured my data has not been helpful. And now I'm going back and structuring the same structured data again in a different way to make, to digitally transform my enterprise.
Right. So, I think there are kind of 2 points of view here, right? One is we spend all the time to make it structured. So it's in a nice structured way. It's in a nice table. It's in a relational database, as is the case, most of the case. We spend all the time, money, effort in buying technologies that are going to show me, all the insights with this structured data as much as possible. And then you have a lot of data coming in now, which is much more than what it used to be. We used to have, let's say, a few files here and there coming in through the 90s and early 2000s, but there's been a data explosion in that sense. There's so much of data coming in from different channels, different media, different tech, devices. Now it's time to think about, okay, how much effort should I spend here to make this structured? Can I do it the same way as I've done before? And then once it's structured, will the same set of, let's say, structuring and reporting and analysis would work on this new set of data that's coming through? So
what are the best ways to kind of either look at my same old structured data or this new data coming in to really kind of separate the wheat from the chaff? There is, data that I can be using right now, which will help in, where I'm going with my enterprise. And then there's a whole lot more data that I do have that I don't necessarily need to act on at this moment.
Yeah. Now, I guess it all starts from what's the need to structure it, right? So a lot of the time, that's the only way we knew how to do things. So if you get an email from a customer, we wanted to go into an Excel sheet, put the name of the customer, put the time it came through, right? We want to always make it structured because that's how we worked as an organization most of the time. So the question is there a better way of doing it? And I guess even though most of the data is structured, what you have typically in any organization, the value you derive out of it is very limited. And that's kind of what we want to focus, isn't it? So we are saying, how can we derive value of the data that you already have? Try it unstructured for a moment, because you have so much of structured data. How can you derive value from that, right?
And that question right back to you. So, what are the kind of the basic tenets that I need to be thinking about to ensure that any time I'm spending with my structured data, I'm spending it with the data of value? What should I be thinking? What should I be doing to make sure that that's where I'm spending my time?
Absolutely. So I think the first step is to say, okay, does it relate to the customer? Forgetting internal or external customer, does that data element, what you're looking at, does it relate to the customer? If the answer is yes, then let's get into it, right?
Right.
If the answer is no, don't even bother to make it structured. So maybe the time you're spending it's a waste of time. So one is on the customer side of it, understanding what that relates to. The second is also depend on the process. So what I've seen most of the time is you have this process elements, and because the process dictates you do it this way in a structured manner, people are forced to put it in a structured data. So that's another one. Can you now change the process and make it adaptable to the data rather than always saying that the process dictates, that's why I'm going to use this structured data. And the third element of it is usually most of the time, right? 80% of the time, you're using that data to derive some insights and to do a report. So again, questioning whether this is the only way to visualize and see this report. Do I even need this report? Is that only that because people have asked for this report last 20 years? Do we need to go in that direction, or can we challenge this? Can we combine, simplify, get rid of reports? I mean, there have been enough cases, I guess, in every organization where you can stop doing things and derive a lot more value so that you can get more insights into the data that you already have.
All right. So pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Does it involve the customer? Yes, continue. No, probably stop.
Yeah.
Can you improve the process?
Yeah.
By evaluating this data. If so, continue. If not, maybe stop. And finally, are we just kind of cutting and pasting for no apparent reason whatsoever? Are we just pushing paper here with the data that's coming in? If we haven't been using it for the past 6 months or 6 years, we can probably quit it. So those are three great tenets, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, it also kind of the last one, right, also relates to the systems and technologies involved. So typically, as any organization, most of the organization, what they do is deriving the same data point from multiple sources, just because I'm really not sure whether we are consistent here. So instead of doing that, can you have one basic tenant to say, this is my master data, this is the truth, right? I'm going to trust in this and go from there, rather than having these multiple copies of data and saying that all of these are structured. I'll have a great time analyzing each of them, validating and saying that, oh, by the way, they all are the same data. Great. I've spent 3 days now doing that. Let me go and create a report.
So that fourth one being, is this the master data?
Yeah.
And if it's not, again, we can leave it. Oh, so I would imagine that there are corporate enterprise practitioners watching this that are relieved. You're taking a weight off of their shoulders. You're kind of guiding them about where to focus and where not to focus. And so that's why these are great. And that's all we need to talk about. The videos are quicker. So Deepak, very much appreciate your time. We'll talk about that unstructured data next time. Is that a deal?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where the value comes, isn't it? I mean, we can derive value out of the structured data. We've done that for many, many years. Now the challenge is, how do you get value out of the unstructured data? How do you deal with it?
So stay tuned.